Now, how to prepare a successful application, find your MIT partner, and overview of the seed fund application will be presented by Professor Christine Ortiz, past Dean of Graduation Education at MIT. Professor Ortiz is Professor of Material Science and Engineering at MIT and founder of Station One, a new nonprofit educational venture launched to pursue science and technology to foster an equitable, creative, prosperous, and sustainable world. Her research expertise in the area of multi-scale design and mechanics of biological and bio-inspired materials and manufacturing and has over 180 publications and 30 national and international honors, including the Presidential Early Career Award in Science and Engineering. Professor Ortiz has also applied 6 times to MISTI Global Seed Fund and was awarded grants for all of her applications. For any questions about application to Professor Ortiz, please leave them in chat. Professor Ortiz, the floor is yours.
Thank you and welcome. I'm delighted to see the launch of this new seed fund. I've gotten to see the launch of a number of them and seen what an enormous impact this can have, both from a grantee perspective and also from the other side. I've also been a reviewer as well for the seed funds. So the power of these grants are incredible, and we really seek to establish a foundation for a trajectory of collaboration, long-term collaboration. And so some of the things that you might want to consider, first I'll talk a little bit about the logistics of the grant and then some general things about the grant. But the first thing is how to find a partner at MIT. And so there's a couple ways to go about that. Generally, each MIT is divided into a number of disciplinary departments and interdisciplinary centers. All of those departments and centers have websites, and generally they will have a description of the ongoing research in the department. And also you can look at the listing of faculty and then go to the faculty websites as well. But a good place to start is the departmental websites with the summary of the research emphasis there. And generally, yeah, as each faculty will generally have their own website as well. I would also encourage to look at the centers. MIT has over 60 centers of interdisciplinary and focused research. And so you may find areas of interest, emerging areas of interest in those centers. And you'll also find groupings of people working together on specific research topics. And again, the goals of this seed fund are to really have all the elements of setting a foundation for a long-term continued collaboration that will go on after the completion of the seed fund. So examples of what the selection board is looking for in each of the sections are the intellectual contribution of the proposal, the topic, and the likelihood of making an important intellectual contribution to a field. We're looking for teams and projects that are new or entering a new phase. So it's okay to have collaborated before, but this should be something that is reasonably new. A balance between both participating teams. We've had grants where there has been no collaboration before, or there has been collaboration before, and this is a new phase. And if there's no collaboration before, but sometimes people have known each other for a long period of time and wanted to do something, but haven't together, haven't had the opportunity, and that's fine. But if you have not collaborated before, a suggestion is to really flesh out exactly what is going to be done together. So a balanced exchange between participating teams. I would say we look for complementarity between the participating principal investigators and researchers and teams. And so one recommendation is to explicitly describe how the two groups, two teams are complementary to the objectives of the proposal. And that includes things like methodology. It's generally fine to have two teams that are in the same discipline, for example, two researchers in electrical engineering or chemistry. But generally we'd like to see some synergy and complementarity, and that could be in the methodologies and the expertise. And so definitely explaining that explicitly and how bringing those two together will achieve the objectives of the research objectives of the proposal. MISTI is super committed to fostering global education for students. And so we would very much like to see undergraduate and graduate students involved in a meaningful way. And that includes engagement between the opportunities for engagement between the students, as well, all different forms of engagement. It's helpful generally. You don't have to identify those students, but if you do have identified students, for example, so MIT has a program called Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program, which most undergraduate students participate in. And so a lot of times the faculty at MIT will already have or can recruit undergraduate students to participate in these projects. MIT has many more graduate students than undergraduate students. And so generally also it's helpful if faculty on both sides can identify both undergraduate students and graduate students by name who will participate. Although not necessary to identify by name, it does strengthen the proposal to see a number of students involved from both sides. And lastly, we asked for, just in the general comments, lastly, we asked for that there's a plan for the project to be sustainable beyond the grant period. And so that involves things like identifying supplementary funding sources, drafting a list of agencies and foundations that the team is eligible to apply for, specific RFPs. A lot of faculty at MIT are generally applying to our federal funding agencies like the National Science Foundation, the National Institutes of Health. And so if there are specific grant calls that are on the horizon for a faculty on this side, then that can be included, same as on the internet on both sides. And so explicitly mentioning funding agencies, specific RFPs and calls, as well as plans for sustainability beyond the grant period. We would like that. So again, this is thinking about approaching matching with each other on both sides. Generally, you want to think about synergy and expertise. Also think about the reasonability of completion of what's proposed. So it needs to fit into the scope of the timelines and reasonability of access to anything that's needed, instrumentation, etc. So we look at these research, now I'll just get into the research part. We look at these research as research proposals. And so when we think about intellectual contributions to the field, just some basic principles about writing this portion of the grant, clearly articulating the research question and research objectives, generally without using too much jargon, because our panels are cross-disciplinary. We will have expert reviewers, and then the panel itself, the review panel, is generally across disciplines because we have grants across all the disciplines. So it's generally very helpful not to both speak to both audiences, the expert and the broader cross-disciplinary panel. articulating what is the current practice for the proposals that you're writing, including all of the relevant citations and the limitations of the current practice, explicitly articulating the new approach and the research question is differentiated from the literature. Why is the research important? So what is the impact? What difference will it make? And what's the timeline for the research? And for this seed fund, sort of like the future trajectory, right? So where that research can go and why funding this research would be a great foundation for a long-term development of a long-term project. Okay, and then I think we can go to the application. It's not a very long application, but I can give some guidelines for how to fill it out. And I think David is gonna pull it up. Okay, if not,
can someone let me pull up the application, share my screen?
No, I can just walk through it in words. So the application involves a brief abstract of 250 words written for non-experts, a history of the collaboration. And again, if there's been collaboration before, you want to articulate what is new or what is the new phase of the work. Describe explicitly the complementarity of the work. And I would think about things like methodology, instrumentation, approaches, expertise. Also complementarity is also included from an international perspective, how that can contribute, having PIs in different countries, how that would complement the work as well. It's not necessary, but it's helpful. And then describe in detail the proposed project. And so funding generally can cover convening costs, travel, and collaboration. Funds are not used to cover salaries or materials or long-term stays, but they can cover all of those other things regarded to collaboration. Then you can include the technical information for the scientific reviewers. Again, an expectation is that citations would be included in this part of it and that it should be pretty coherently written. It's about a couple pages, 1,500 words. Then describe in detail the exchanges and activities planned. So this would be, specifically what are the dates of the planned meetings, how many meetings, who's going to attend them, how long are they going to be, where are they going to be, and so really outlining that clearly in detail. And it's helpful in this section to include what students are going to be involved too, as well as others, partners, etc. And also how many people from each institution. Then the next set is describe additional activities, how will they be funded, and the project sustainability, which I talked about before, plans to apply for other seed or research funds, etc. And from the MIT side, definitely one of the main ways that we involve students is through the undergraduate research opportunities website called UROP, U-R-O-P. You can also go to the UROP site and see projects that are posted for undergraduates. So that's another way to see what some of the recent research is that faculty are hiring students for. Let's see what else. And then just going through all the other funding questions, specific funding that's being applied for. The project field and subfield, it's helpful to sort of, most projects will be disciplinary in nature. I think that if the project field is not a classical discipline, I would elaborate a little bit more. So if it's cross-disciplinary, you might want to elaborate. So say that it's a cross-disciplinary topic, we just want to elaborate what are the specific disciplinary fields that go into it, so that we can sort of match it with the departments that exist at MIT. Overall, the application is not very long, and again, it has a two-tier review. One with a series of experts who write written reviews. Those written reviews then go to a panel, cross-disciplinary panel, that takes into account all those reviews and does a secondary review, and then the panel comes together to rank and make the final decisions. Generally, it's a pretty competitive process. We get pretty amazing applications for all of our seed funds, and they really have had just an enormous impact on stimulating collaborative research, not only for the period of the grant, but beyond that. And so I wish you all the best of luck in applying, and happy to take any questions, and extremely excited about the possibilities for what this will do for our collaborative research.
Thank you, Professor Christine. Would you like to answer the questions from your end, or I read them and you answer?
Sure, maybe you can pick one and I can answer.
Okay, first question we have from Muhammad Saleh. Do we choose the topic to work with, or the MIT partner choose the topic?
Yes, so that's generally this is joint. So generally the topic is something that both principal investigators are interested in and develop together. And the topics are open. They're pretty much anything that that both sides are working on.
Firas Kafaiha, areas and themes of collaboration. If you visit Abdulhamid Shuman Foundation, shuman.org, under MIT page, you will find full details about the initiative. And also, if you visit the MISTI webpage. Khulud Abu Abeid, is there any special consideration should be taken when we write proposal? Any specific consideration?
Yeah. David, do you have any thoughts on that? I don't think so.
I think that, you know, what's important is it's really, we see that it's both synergetic and it's collaborative, including students. Those are the big key things.
What is the required language for the research? It's English. And what is the link that we will send? The link that we will send it to? The application will be open at 14 of September. So the link will be available on Abdulhamid Shuman Foundation website and MIT website. Tail Hassan, can we collaborate with ongoing research at the MIT centers, as this would create future advanced collaboration?
Yeah, so the way that MIT is structured is that faculty have appointments in the primary departments and units. So we have about 40 departments, and they are in 5 schools. And then we have around 60 cross-disciplinary centers. And so faculty also have appointments within the centers. And so so generally you'll have a collaboration with a faculty or a researcher, and they will have affiliations or appointments within departments and centers. And so that's sort of how to do that. Yes, and so you could go to a center and see that you're really interested in the work, and then identify who are the researchers working in that center.
Nabil Ayub, is there an upper limit on the seed fund amount per project? Yes, it's about $30,000 US. Ala Ashdifat, is the undergraduate engagement is mandatory for success the application?
David, I don't think so, right?
It's not mandatory, but definitely highly encouraged. And when the selection board sees all the proposals, that's one of the things they're taking into consideration.
Ayat Nashwan, do we encourage proposal to engage humanities and social science with natural science, such as social work and urban planning development? You mentioned multidisciplinary, but I'm not sure what you have meant exactly.
Yeah, David, this topics are open, right?
There is,
Sorry,
yeah, there is a list of topics. I mean, I can, it's on our website. I don't know if you want me to share it again. I can share it. This is the list of topics and priority areas for this specific seed fund. So it's very wide.
Yeah, so I can just comment that there's opportunities to integrate science and engineering with the humanities and arts and social sciences in all of these areas. And for most of them, it would be highly beneficial.
Ala Ashdifat, I would ask that can a Jordanian team of 2 researchers submit 2 researchers?
So you can list more than one principal investigator from each institution. You just need at least one from each institution to be the lead, but you can definitely have more than one on each side.
What are the criteria for the initial screening?
Yeah, so they were the ones that I mentioned. So I'll just go through them again. So intellectual contribution and new intellectual contribution to the field, entering a new phase or new, balanced exchange between participating teams, complementarity between participating teams, involvement of students, and sustainability beyond the life of the grant.
Dr. Rana Abu Tayma, is it possible to include more collaborators from overseas universities, not only from Jordan and MIT?
That's definitely possible. I would recommend thinking about how that collaboration would enhance the collaboration between Jordan and MIT, and also that those 2 partners from Jordan and MIT have a substantive role in the proposal. But definitely I would think it's okay to include additional collaborators as long as they're enhancing the work between Jordan and MIT.
Ghufran Abu Diye, should the teams collaborating be only from universities, or can an organization be one of the participating teams?
David, is that allowed to have a non-academic lead organization?
So definitely the 2 applicants have to be academic, university or research institution. There could be other partners that are involved in the project, but there has to be one MIT primary investigator and one Jordanian primary investigator, either from a research institute or from another university, and others could be involved.
Is there any mandate on the output of the seed fund, like publications, patent, other funds?
There's no mandate, but it's highly encouraged, and it's extremely common that publications and grants emerge from this proposal. And there's a final progress report that is required as well at the end. to describe the outcomes of the project.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, David. Yeah, we have more questions. Are the program encouraging early career faculty members?
Yes, so we definitely, we have faculty of all levels. And so we try to get a balance between early career, mid, and senior. So definitely encourage early careers to apply.
Okay, can the application include a fund to purchase equipment and research consumables?
I don't believe so.
I know it's basically funding the travel of the faculty and students. You can't buy any materials with these funds.
Is it okay to collaborate to organize online interactive conferences?
Yes.
Thank you, David and Christine. At the end, I would like to thank you once again for your attendance. Also, I would like to thank Mrs. Valentina Sisi, Professor Khouri, Professor Ortiz, and Mr. David. We encourage everyone to apply to this unique opportunity and looking forward to receiving your application. I and David will remain at your disposal for any inquiry regarding the application. Thank you.